Hey, so this is the iPhone 17 Pro, and this is last year's iPhone 16 Pro. There's always a narrative that Apple releases the same phone every year, but with the iPhone 17 Pro, there are two big hardware upgrades for the cameras. There's now a new Periscope telephoto lens. Instead of the 16 Pro's 120mm 12-megapixel Periscope lens, we now have a 100mm 48-megapixel Periscope lens. That by itself is a big upgrade in specs alone, but we also have a notable upgrade for the front camera. Instead of the regular 12-megapixel selfie, the 17 Pro now has a square-shaped 18-megapixel selfie camera. And yep, these still have the exact same main and ultra-wide lenses, but the post-processing changes every single year, so we'll see what the differences are even if the hardware hasn't changed. Even though most normal people upgrade their iPhones every couple of years, there are sickos like you and me that always get FOMO if there is any camera upgrade year over year, or there are those of you who are just curious on how the upgrades are. So I'm going to go over each and every lens, go over the photo and video results, and let you know how big or small the jump is from the 16 Pro to the 17 Pro. Okay, starting with the main lens, in regular auto 24-megapixel HEIC format, the tones and the overall color science looks almost exactly the same. Both phones get about the same amount of details in daylight images. Even if you really pixel peep, there aren't that many significant differences, but there is better natural sharpening on the 17 Pro. It looks slightly less artificial than the 16 Pro. As you can see, the facial details and the hair strands look a lot more natural. There's also slightly more depth with more bokeh. The images just look less flat. There are also cleaner details, possibly thanks to better stabilization. It does look less digital once you zoom into these photos, especially for moving subjects. I also noticed that especially when there are more shadows present, the 16 Pro tries to sharpen slightly more to get some additional artificial details, which makes the photo look a bit more murky and messy, while the 17 Pro leans more toward less sharpening, so it does make more slightly softer images, which ironically looks more natural and nicer to look at. In most instances, contrast and highlights are handled about the same, but once things get a little bit tougher, like harsh light sources or whatnot, the contrast and highlight levels look more realistic on the 17 Pro. Especially with portraits, highlights, and skin tones are handled a lot better with the 17 Pro as well. I have similar comments about the low light images, but in tougher lighting conditions or moving subjects, the 17 Pro got much cleaner images with way less grain and the right amount of stabilization. So in terms of differences, there's really nothing too major since the main lenses have the same hardware. Without the additional post-processing with these raw images, they really look identical. So for the main lens, it looks like Apple just tweaked the post-processing a tiny bit for the 17 Pro. As for the ultra-wide lenses, I really have nothing to say here. The results look exactly the same in every aspect. You can let me know if you see any differences here, but I don't. Now, where we do see some more noticeable differences is the Periscope telephoto lenses. First off, you get much cleaner details all around with the 17 Pro. There's less grain, there's more depth to the photo. Even with far off objects like this, you do get more depth of field in the background. At 8x, you see even more of a difference. The 17 Pro's photos look much less digital. It looks more like a stabilized photo, and it's a lot more usable than the 8x image from the 16 Pro. And even in raw format, the difference is very noticeable. So even from just these results, the 17 Pro's Periscope is definitely a more capable lens than the 16 Pro. Also, the colors are almost identical, but I do see that Apple has fixed the more greenish bluish hues from the 16 Pro. The 17 Pro's photos leans a little bit more towards pink purple hues, but it's very subtle. So the 17 Pro looks slightly more color accurate and more balanced, so it doesn't look like it's leaning either way in terms of tones. All of my comments about the Periscope differences are actually more noticeable in low light. You get much cleaner details on the 17 Pro, images look less flat, and you also get better color correction and more stabilized photos. So even though optical zoom is technically lessened from the 16 Pro's 5x to the 17 Pro's 4x, the larger sensor size and the higher quality lens actually makes that an upgrade, and these Periscope images look noticeably better year over year. But yeah, summing it up for the rear cameras, Apple has improved the post-processing of the main lens a tiny bit. The ultrawide is exactly the same, and the Periscope telephoto has noticeably improved in both hardware and software processing. Then for the selfie cameras, the first thing I noticed was how much wider angle it is. Even in portrait orientation, you can get a lot more in frame. As for the colors and skin tones though, I feel like the 16 Pro actually does a better job here. On the 17 Pro, my skin looks a little bit weird. I just look red for some reason. But on the 17 Pro, you do get sharper images with more depth, which is good for portraits, but I think I do prefer the color accuracy on the 16 Pro. In low light, you can definitely see that this was a hardware upgrade. Stabilization is much better, and you get much cleaner details with less grain. Outside of these though, the main upgrade here is that you get so much more flexibility with the new front camera on the 17 Pro. Since the sensor is square shaped, you can shoot in both portrait or landscape while keeping the phone in portrait orientation, which is so convenient, especially for vlogging. I vlogged my entire Japan trip like this, and the video quality was really nice. When comparing the selfie video quality with the 16 Pro, the 17 Pro looks much better with the wider angle. There's way less grain, you get much cleaner footage. This is actually even more noticeable in low light, where the focus and stabilization are handled much better on the 17 Pro. I still do prefer prefer the skin tones of the 16 Pro in daylight, but the trade-off is definitely worth it for the better footage. And like I mentioned before, the flexibility and convenience of being able to record in landscape while holding the phone vertically makes it really easy to vlog with the 17 Pro. As for video recording with the rear cameras, the colors and the level of detail for the main lenses look virtually about the same. But I do see the shadows lifted a bit more on the 17 Pro, which may make it look slightly brighter than the 16 Pro, but not by much. I also see that the stabilization looks a tiny bit more natural on the 17 Pro. In low light though, the 17 Pro's footage looks a lot better even though these two have the same main lenses. You get much less grain and the details a lot more clear, though they both still have those infamous lens flares during the night. For the Periscope telephoto, the low light difference is infinitely more noticeable with the Periscope lenses. You can just see it for yourself, it's just complete domination by the 17 Pro. If you happen to take a lot of video clips at night, the 17 Pro will feel like a big upgrade. Alright, so that's going to do it for all the comparison shots. Overall, I'd say that the iPhone 17 Pro's camera system is a pretty decent upgrade over the 16 Pro in both hardware and software. We still have the same main and ultra-wide lenses, but the post-processing has improved in a lot of areas. The Periscope telephoto is that much better, and the flexibility of the new selfie camera makes it so much more useful than it ever was on iPhone. Now, if you're like me and you take most of your shots with the main lens with the Pro RAW mode, then the upgrade doesn't really make sense between these two phones. But if you do shoot in auto, you really care about the camera quality, and you want better low light and vlogging capabilities, then the upgrade could make sense for a lot of you out there. By the way, I spent the whole day using both these phones, taking photos and videos throughout the entire day, and I didn't really notice any performance or thermal differences between these two phones. So it's good to see that the iPhone 16 Pro can keep up in performance with the 17 Pro, at least with the cameras. Alright, so that's everything I have to say about the differences between the iPhone 17 Pro and the 16 Pro cameras. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the differences here, if it does justify a year-over-year upgrade this time around. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.